Donnybrook is made possible by the members of the 9 Network.
Well, thank you for joining us for another edition of Donnybrook. We are so happy you could join us a little later tonight. In fact, on Donnybrook Next Up, we'll talk to 2 local St. Louis County restaurant owners who will tell us how their businesses are faring during the pandemic. First, let's meet our panelists, starting with the news director for the Big 550 KTRS, Wendy Wiese, along with our friend and columnist with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Mr. Bill McClellan. He's a writer for the Riverfront Times, rawstory.com, and you hear him on KTRS in the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ray Hartmann. And from 97.1 FM News Talk, as well as AM 590 and the St. Louis American, looking good, he's Mr. Alvin Reed. All right, lots to talk about, and oh, man, where do we start? How about with you, Bill McClellan? Breaking news that's certainly to get some national attention because a local judge has decided to yank the circuit attorney Kim Gardner from the now infamous, famous, notorious McCloskey case. We remember the 2 from the Central West End who were toting those firearms last summer. Well, the judge ruled that because the circuit attorney had used the case in some of her campaign literature, she should be excused from prosecuting. How do you feel about that?
Well, I have always thought that this was a bad prosecution and it really only helps 4 people. The McCloskeys, Joel Schwartz, their lawyer, because he can charge whatever he wants because the money comes in, and Kim Gardner, because she can be a hero to her people. Meanwhile, bodies are piling up in St. Louis. I think the whole thing makes us look ridiculous. And if they stop it now, you know, I'll miss the entertainment value, but it would be good for St. Louis and the St. Louis region if they stopped it.
Well, it's embarrassing to St. Louis because of the McCloskey's conduct, but I think that it's ironic that this is we're so prim and proper in a case where the governor of Missouri has already promised a pardon to the defendant before they were charged. And as far as Kim Gardner's, you know, I don't know enough about what her campaign literature said, but just about every prosecutor who runs for office is talks about being tough on crime, talks about what they're going to do. She was under assault nationally for bringing a prosecution, and everybody saw what happened. For her to just say no harm, no foul when somebody waves firearms, points firearms at unarmed protesters who are peaceful, that would be a terrible message, not to say.
But Ray, was under assault from her political enemies. She was being adored by her political friends.
So. That's
but the difference. The difference is,
one at a time.
The difference is that her campaign literature included a case that had not been heard yet. I mean, anything could have changed between, you know, at that time and when they actually went on trial. I mean, I'm with Bill. These people never should have been charged in the first place for 1,000 different reasons, and they keep coming back up and embarrassing us. But the fact of the matter is, that was a misstep. And to be called out on it legally seems like she makes a lot of missteps that she gets called out on legally. And this is one. The reason that she can't prosecute the case is her own fault. It's for her own short-sightedness.
I agree with Alvin and Bill. And if she knows the law, and clearly she does, it's one thing to politicize crime, as you said, Ray. They all politicize crime and getting tough on crime, but to politicize a specific case, that's where this isn't going to work for her.
I don't think she politicized the case as much as the reaction to her bringing the case.
Well, it was in a campaign ad, and if she had sent them both to jail, and then she said, I sent them both to jail, I wouldn't have any problem with that. But the case hadn't even been heard yet.
Well, we'll see. I mean, first of all, we got to see whether she appeals it. If she doesn't, They didn't dismiss the case. So we're clear. They're talking about appointing a special prosecutor. For her selfish point of view, I'm not sure it's such a bad thing. I mean, in other words, if the special prosecutor comes in and gets a conviction, she'll be the one who brought the case. And I think she was absolutely right. The message she would be sending to the armed community in saying, that's okay. You can threaten people if they walk by your house with a gun.
There's a lot of people who wave firearms.
By the way, what about everybody fine with parsing preemptively?
Right, let's move on to another topic with all due respect, because time is limited as always. And I want to ask you about a case out of Texas where the attorney general there, who is supported by the attorney general in Missouri, by the way, Eric Schmidt, is taking a case he hopes to the Supreme Court to overturn the election results in 4 states, citing what he thinks are constitutional problems. What makes it a little interesting in Missouri, in addition to the fact that the attorney general from the state is getting involved, is that there's a possibility that the General Assembly is going to have a special session. I'm laughing just thinking about this. They're going to come back for a special session just to vote on a non-binding resolution endorsing the lawsuit out of Austin, Texas.
Well, let's talk about Schmidt first. I mean, he didn't just join this. He has written he's the lead attorney out of 17 states on this at our taxpayers' expense, as he was in Pennsylvania. Case got nothing to do with Missouri, and this doesn't even rise to the level of a frivolous lawsuit. We're talking about it like it's a serious matter. By the time we're on next week, this is going to be so yesterday's news.
Maybe so, but I think that your point
we have no business being part of this case.
Do you think should Democrats show up for this?
Of course not. I mean, it's like going to Lincoln days. I mean, it's such a ridiculous exercise. This has, first of all, set aside the pandemic, which is the big reason that they shouldn't be gathering. That gathering wouldn't even be legal in St. Louis. In addition to having half of these guys down there without masks on in an enclosed room, in addition to that, in addition to the fact that the new session is seated in less than 3 weeks, to go down there and be props in this cheap political stunt that has nothing to do with Missouri, has nothing to do with our business, our people. What are we doing? Are you serious?
I'll explain what we're doing. First of all, I think Eric Schmidt's joining the lawsuit was ridiculous. I think having this special meeting is ridiculous. But if I was a Democrat, I would definitely go, because I would want to be on record as saying, you people know nothing about this. I mean, not a single one of you knows as much about the election in Georgia as the Georgia Secretary of State and the Georgia governor. The same thing with all the other states, and you're wasting Missouri tax money, and I want to be on record as opposing it. And also, if you want to take the attitude, you should only go there when there's something constructive to do. You might as well stay home from Jeff City, because the Democrats can't get anything done there. And if I'm a Democratic legislator, I'm going to tell my constituents, my chance of a health bill passing is 0. My chance of this is 0, but I'm still going. Just like I want you guys to vote every November, even though the chances of winning in Missouri are slim. You do it because you should do it.
Well, good point, Bill. I agree with you.
I don't think this is.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ray.
No, you go ahead.
No, I don't think this has anything to do with reality. I think this has to do with political expedience. They don't know how broad Donald Trump's coattails are going to continue to be. I think they are, as we said last week, I think they're all trying to cut their odds of ending up on the wrong side of his Twitter feed.
Hey, Ray, can I ask you a question? I know you don't want the lawmakers meeting during a pandemic, but
yes.
Are you now broadcasting outside with a mask on your KTRS programs in the evening?
No, but we sure social distance. We don't have guests in the studio, and no, I wouldn't go. First of all, for their own sake, none of them on either side of the aisle should exposing not only themselves but their families, their constituents to risk. So the first thing's there. As to what Bill said, I completely agree with Bill that they have an obligation to go, whether they're going to get voted outvoted it. It has nothing to do with it. When it's got to do with the business of the people of Missouri, this has no bearing in any respect, directly or indirectly, on the people of Missouri. And for the taxpayers to spend $40,000, $50,000 or more at a time when the taxpayers can't even pay their utility bills and their rent, and for our taxpayers to pay these guys to go down there to put on this show is absurd.
They're going anyway, Ray. I mean, it's just going to cost.
If they want a message, they should go on national television with a boycott and get covered that way. It's stupid.
Okay.
It's why risk their health? And it's not even going to do with Missouri.
Okay. Wendy, let me ask you as we switch the topic here and move to the St. Louis County Council, where during the summer, when she was running for re-election, Kelly Dunaway, a member of the county council, was appearing virtually on Zoom during the council meetings. But it was pointed out by Tom Sullivan, the government watchdog, who has now filed a complaint with the Missouri Ethics Commission, and he was supported this morning by an editorial in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He noticed that she had a campaign poster behind her that was visible, and he said that she was using government resources to push her campaign, which is illegal and unlawful. And the Post-Dispatch agreed with her. Isn't this kind of a big, much ado about nothing? And did we lose Wendy? Okay, well, how about you, Bill McClellan, as we get Wendy back? She'll be back.
Okay, I'll channel Wendy here. Yeah. And I think she would take the reasonable position that it was nothing. And I was surprised we had an editorial about it. I mean, I don't think a candidate making a statement in these days where everybody's indoors in front of with a poster behind you, I didn't see the big deal about that.
Bill, I have to respectfully disagree with you on this one because, I mean, she put it there on purpose, okay? I have to really think that. And she probably knew that this is probably skirting, the rules a little bit. And so, yeah, if she gets in trouble for it, so be it, because I think she knew it was wrong. She's trying to pull a fast one and, she didn't pull it off. And it was wrong. And she has to answer to it.
Well,
I don't think I think it is as close to zero as a story can get. I just can't even imagine that we're to Bill's point, the idea that the Post-Dispatch wrote about this is kind of embarrassing. And it's just as close to zero as a story can get. I mean, who cares?
Well, I want to take my hat off to Tom Sullivan. Rules are rules. I mean, and she's a Brian Cave attorney. She should know better. But yes, I do kind of agree. Yesterday we had
to zero as a story.
Well, we had 30.
Wait a minute, now Ray. If Josh Hawley had an elect Josh Hawley button on the floor of the Senate, you would have a problem with that, wouldn't you?
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
You wait a minute, Ray. You'd have a problem with that, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't. Don't say what I would.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hey,
I believe you.
Wendy, how about you? Wendy is back. Wendy is back. And Wendy, we're talking about Kelly Dunaway.
I apologize. I was knocked off through no fault of my own. I think that she absolutely knows better. It was there, and then after the election, it disappeared. I think I'm totally fine with her being brought up before the Ethics Commission.
Oh my God!
I mischanneled you then, Wendy.
I'm sorry?
I mischanneled you. I said I'm channeling Wendy, and it's not a big deal. So
it might not be a big deal, but it's still a violation.
Okay. Here's a story that was not a violation. It wasn't unlawful, but it was a Post-Dispatch story. And there's a local political fundraiser by the name of Angela Bingaman, Alvin Reed. She used to work with Richard Callow, who's a political operative. And she reached out to Ben Brown, the owner of Satchmo's Restaurant, which has been closed by the county health department, not only because indoor dining is closed, but when they decided to defy that local order, their entire operation was shut down, including curbside dining and carryout. So she said, let me pull some strings, Mr. Brown, and have you meet with Sam Page, the county executive. And I'm thinking to myself, I want the restaurant owners to have a tete-a-tete with the county executive. This is a good thing, right, Alvin?
No, it's not a good thing, because maybe that should have happened beforehand. I'll give you that. But if you're going to openly defy, this regulation, this edict that I put down, why is anybody, who is not in my administration going out there because they raised a lot of money for me, talking like for me and, oh, I can arrange a meeting and blah, blah, blah. And then the guy rats her out, which is the lowest common denominator. And this once again, this is a small microcosm why we can't get things in St. Louis, because as people are going to say, oh, this is no big deal. This is how it's done. Oh, no, it's not. This is slimy, and it needs to stop. If St. Louis County wants to get itself to, it's why? I raised a lot of money for him. Okay, I raised a lot of money for Sam Page, so I could talk to Sam Page, and I could get you a meeting, and never mind all the rest of these restaurants, and never mind that you openly defied him, and never mind that you had a cutout silhouette of him with a Hitler-like mustache on. What? Come on, Charlie. This is out of control, and it needs to stop.
Well, I just think restaurant owners should be meeting with the county executive. He should be reaching out to them virtually or in person, socially distanced. But I don't think a meeting is unlawful or unethical, and setting one up, I don't think is unlawful or unethical. She didn't ask him for money.
Right.
No,
and
no.
under this is a white hot light. I mean, this is a very bright light. So that's why I don't think there was anything untoward. I think it was simply an attempt to, there were only a handful of restaurants involved. Who knows? Maybe she was going to go down the list. Maybe she didn't start alphabetically, but I didn't think that this rose to the level of the response from some quarters.
Well, I thought it was really good journalism, though. I mean, you have this, like you say, Wendy, a white hot light on this dispute between the restaurants and Sam Page. And if the owner of the restaurant comes to the newspaper like he did and said, I'm not sure if this is correct or not, I think Jeremy Kohler, the reporter, handled it just perfectly. It's a story, it's interesting, and you get the response from the woman, and I don't think she did anything wrong myself, and you get the response from Page's office. I thought it was good work.
Oh, I think it's really overstated. I mean, look, in our business, we have stuff come to us. Okay, great. I don't call that good journalism. I think it's the reference in the story. There was a reference in the story to Stanger, for crying out loud. I mean, which has got,
the next paragraph.
Whatever you, and I'm no
defender, it was up high in the story.
I'm no defender of Sam Page, but the idea that this somehow morphed to some pay-to-play thing was so out of context. So I beg to differ that it was such a.
No, I just think it was a big deal.
It just wasn't. To me, nobody. This is interesting. It's one of those stories where nobody in the story looks good. I mean, Sam Page should want to have that meeting with adversaries without having a fundraiser.
Oh, wait, you know who looks bad, right? St. Louis County looks bad.
I agree.
Again, St. Louis County looks bad.
I agree with you, Alvin. I'm saying I don't think anybody looks good, but the idea, if we think this is some breathless story.
Okay, I agree. If it's that,
it's not that
Wendy Wiese. Josh Hawley, according to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, is on the same page as Bernie Sanders. No, there's nothing wrong with your Zoom machine. That's a fact. They both want direct payments to Americans. And apparently, Josh Hawley is also walking in concert with AOC. So I guess if you live long enough, you see just about everything. What do you make about this, though, that Hawley's agreeing with others when it comes to sending direct payments to Americans? That would be the fifth big federal stimulus this year.
I think something that Senator Hawley feels very strongly about is the suffering of the American people, strongly enough to reach across the aisle to foes like AOC or Bernie Sanders. It is probably the quintessential politics making strange bedfellows story of the year, really. But I think he's right. I do think you want to get money into the hands of the people who are truly suffering. It's Christmas. Do I think this would work its way into his presidential campaign down the road? Absolutely. But I'm not that cynical. I think he's actually doing the right thing.
I agree. I will say everybody's got a different motive. I think his is, like you say, political in many ways, but also if they don't get it done now, right about Valentine's Day or probably even sooner, President Biden will announce that the money is coming, people, and I'm here to save you, baby. And, you know, it's Josh Hawley's just trying to say, like, look, the money's coming. Let me get on the side of the people and the money. Also, for every $1 that goes to, like, you know, the American family or whatever, the $2,400 for each member of the household or whatever, 10 times that much will end up in corporate America's pockets. So, you know, I think he's just talking right now because he doesn't want all the glory to come to the incoming administration.
I think Hawley's wrong and AOC and Bernie Sanders. With the limited amount of money that Congress has put up, I mean, it was a compromise. I really think it has to be more directed and like go to restaurants and small businesses and not just to the general public. I mean, money can go to them later is what I say. Right now, there's businesses that have to be saved.
I agree with that.
What to do with you tonight,
man. Oh, no, Bill. There's cars to buy. There's refrigerators to be bought.
Bill, I don't know what's happening tonight. No, I mean, I think I criticize Hawley enough that you got to give him credit for being on the right side, which I think he is in this case. I think the smart place for any member of Congress to be is as far from the leadership of both parties right now in Congress as you can get. And the collective failure of Congress to act on this is really astonishing. And Bill, you may have, I don't know the details of where the money ought to go, but the idea that Hawley is for whatever his reasons for taking a populist stand, you know, you got to give him credit when he's on the right side of something. And
well, I mean,
agree with AOC and Bernie.
It's hard for me to be fair in that regard, Ray.
He ought to.
I think Bill's right. I mean, if he directed the money to restaurants or people facing eviction or even the expansion of Medicaid, but you know, there are a lot of retirees who basically don't need the money. Not all. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know there are some who do, but the way the checks went out earlier. But Bill, speaking of checks going out, Sam Page, of course, is a part-time member now of Western Anesthesiologists. That's his job. He's Dr. Sam Page. And Western Anesthesiologist was one of about 700 medical firms to get federal money. Do you think there's a problem with that?
Well, I think there's a little bit of a problem in the fact that I don't know, I'll yield to Wendy on the business of medicine. But I don't know if these firms are about to go under. And I know that restaurants are going under. And if I was Sam Page, I would have wanted to announce this myself. I wouldn't want this coming out in the news. But Wendy probably knows more about anesthesiologists and businesses. Well, I always think you do, Wendy.
Bill,
I'm not sure how those wires were crossed. I mean,
your husband's in the medical field.
I feel that I think that just about every industry has taken a significant hit. I have no problem with Western Anesthesiology receiving the same kind of money that other people have received in other groups and other corporate entities. I have no problem.
And he probably, look, he's a partner in a business, and maybe, and I don't know this to be true or anything, but maybe one of the things he pledged them is my being county executive won't like interfere with our business. Thus, if his partner said, we would rather not announce this at the time, maybe he adhered to that. I don't know that. I'm with you technically that I would have just, I would try to be upfront about all of this. I got some money from the federal government. Right. So
Bill is absolutely right on that.
I think transparency is a pretty big deal when you're talking about this much money, a company that you're affiliated with, regardless of the circumstance. So I don't know enough about it, but I think transparency is a big deal.
Well, I want to be on the record that I'm not against anesthesiologists. They've been good to me.
Well, I've never had to have one. I want to keep it that way.
Bill is right. He addresses the media 3 times a week, so it would be pretty easy to get out in front of this kind of thing.
Okay, speaking of transparency, Alvin Reed, a police officer who was involved in the fatal shooting of Terry Tillman in August of 2019 at the Galleria, will not be charged, according to county prosecutor Wesley Bell, who is not releasing the videotape of that. Seems like the one police shooting where they're not releasing the videotape, and this time looks like the guy's going to be exonerated or at least not charged. Don't you think that video should be open for public consumption?
Well, right now, I don't think so. And I understand what Wesley Bell is doing. I think ultimately it will be made available to the public, but he's not going to release it. So then the Post and other places can, file the FOI, Freedom of Information billing, and it will come out. But he just didn't want to be the one to just put it out there. I think we pretty much know what it shows, that it was a justifiable shooting by the police officer. But Wesley Bell knows that if I put this out there, there is a large segment of the population that will look at it and say, like, he gunned him down in cold blood. This is another cop shooting. Because that's where America is right now. We see things in such different prisms that reality kind of gets lost in it. And I think he's doing the right thing.
I think he had the perfect pitch on this. And when he was elected as a reform prosecutor, they were going to unionize his office right away. This shows that he is a serious prosecutor who's fair, who does his homework, and he handled this with the right pitch. None of these stories is easy, but I think the family asked him not to release it. I don't think any great public interest would be served by it being released. I think he handled this perfectly. I really do. In a situation that could have been much more difficult if he wasn't handling it as well as he did.
But since when did you go on the side of the government not releasing publicly available information under all applicable laws, including the Sunshine Law?
I just don't. I think he handled this situation, which is a very delicate situation in this community, perfectly. That's what I think.
Yeah, and it'll come out. I think they'll all come out. It's just like it might be out tomorrow. But
I know. But last week we were talking about how a lawmakers' texts are subject for public purview, and it would seem to me that all government documents, including videos involving.
What if the consequence of releasing this was to inflame tensions where they're not inflamed right
now?
Well,
that's what I was saying.
What's the point of that? What public good is served?
Then he would be criticized.
You know what? It's open transparency, and
he's handled this. So we want to have like violence or whatever we might have if he doesn't handle it with the temperament that he had. I'm sorry. I think Wesley Bell should be given. We don't, and I'll call it like I see it, but I think in this case, it was really a very good example of how to handle a very difficult situation. I think he did it perfect.
Okay, folks, that's going to wrap it up for this edition. But when we come back, we're going to talk to two restaurant owners who will tell us how their businesses are faring during this pandemic. So that's on Donnybrook Next Up. We thank you for joining us, and we also encourage you not to go away.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of the 9 Network.
Thank you for joining us for Donnybrook Next Up. During this half hour, we'll discuss what it's like to run a restaurant in St. Louis County now, as we welcome Arlene Browne, the owner of Robust Wine Bar in Webster Groves, and Colleen Thompson, the owner of Colleen's Cookies in University City. Ms. Thompson, Ms. Browne, thank you so much for joining us on the 9 Network.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, Ms. Browne, let's start with you. Robust Wine Bar in Webster Groves. Right now, of course, as we know, indoor dining is prohibited in St. Louis County. So how are you faring?
I tell you, this indoor dining has not been that great for us. I mean, we've tried a lot from the very beginning of the pandemic, and we've had to pivot quite a bit. But this is really hurting us. This is hurting us more than we thought it would. And we've tried to change a lot of things. We've really ramped up our online experience by, with delivery and curbside, but it's just not sustainable.
Ms. Thompson?
We did really well the first time. First time there was closures, we pivoted really quickly. We already had carry out in play with different services, and it worked extremely well. But we were all on the same playing field then.
Yes.
The city and the county both were closed, so it was a fair shake. But we're having a more difficult time now as well. Just because I can't tell you how many times a day people call in and say, do you have in-house dining? And we just get hung up on when we tell them no. So it's a challenge this time.
Alvin?
Well, obviously, some restaurants opted to just stay open and damn the torpedoes. Did you consider that? And obviously you didn't. And so why?
I did.
We did.
I don't. Sorry, go ahead, Arlene.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, please.
We didn't do that just because in the long run, it's not going to benefit us. Short term, it might have, generated a little bit of income, but long term, it would have had more of a backlash. So I didn't consider it at all.
I completely agree. And I think we're all trying to do the right thing here. And so, breaking the laws was just not an option for us because we all want to do the right thing and we want people to be safe. And we're just trying to find a way to make this work.
That's exactly right.
Well, first of all, congratulations. You both have great restaurants. Thank you for that. Would you like to see, you alluded to the differences between the county and the city and St. Charles County and so forth. Would you like to see a more, if you were county executive, would you handle it differently, or would you like to see St. Louis County handle this differently than it currently is?
I don't think it's just this county. It's not just St. Louis County. I think the problem is there's no comprehensive plan for the region. I mean, people need to work together. We all want to do the right thing, but with it so fragmented, it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help people. It doesn't help the spread of COVID. It doesn't help the businesses. And with no relief in sight, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Arlene too, because there's no blanket that you can throw on everything and assume that it's the same. So if you come to our restaurant to have breakfast or lunch for an hour, that's completely different than if you're going to, an evening place where you're spending hours there around lots of people. Whereas in there, we are really, really strict in terms of no one comes in without a mask. And we're wiping down every handle from the front door handle to the restroom handles and everything in between, and asking for people to put their mask up when, we bring food to the table. So we've done everything to comply with keeping not only our staff safe, but the guests as well, because it's so important for everyone.
Bill?
Most of us know that it's really a tough time for restaurants, especially in the county. But what kind of help have you gotten? Like initially, did money come directly to the restaurants or to the workers? And what are you hoping for next from the government?
So we applied to all, for all the different relief funds and got the county cares money and also the PPP loans. And those are the things that really, really helped us in the long run. But as soon as right now, it's so hard because again, we're not on the same playing field and we don't know if there's any relief in sight.
Yeah, we had the exact same thing. We received both of those programs that helped to benefit us at the time. But, now it's completely different because we don't have, initially we circled around, we had all management doing it. So we busted a move and it worked. But now I'm trying to keep all of my single parents and employed, and it's the holidays, and I have a great team, and it's so complicated and so hard. And again, there is no relief in sight. Supposedly next week there's talk of possibly lifting, the closure, but I really honestly don't foresee that.
Well, the government money they're talking about now in Congress, I mean, is any of that directed at you guys?
They talk about it, but
we don't know for sure, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. I just wondered. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy?
Well, it seems to me that owning a restaurant is a difficult enough proposition in April of 2019 when the sun is shining. So it is not an easy thing to do. And I know that Colleen, you mentioned briefly your staff, but I know that you have relied very heavily on them. I follow you on Instagram, and certainly Arlene, I will follow you as well. But your staff has pivoted and pivoted again. If you could speak to their creativity and their flexibility, I know we'd love to hear from both of you on that point.
My executive pastry chef has taken on every role. Elizabeth Hughes is amazing. She has taken on doing the inventory and taken on the IT for our point of sale and still scheduling all of the pastries and the cookies and all of that. And our executive chef Rob Range has danced around trying to find new ways to have more meals going out. We're breakfast and lunch, and we tried doing the meal plans, and it didn't sell as well because we're not known for that. Not that he isn't an amazing chef. It's just people are going to go to somewhere else, for a meal plan as opposed to us.
That's true. That's true. So I think our management team has been amazing. We've really cut down to the bare bones with our executive chef, Zach Dale, and our management team with Amy Boss and Augustus Nanos. And everybody's been really working hard on building up our online business for curbside and delivery, family meals, and lots of online options like build your own gift baskets and build your own cheese and charcuterie trays. And we even started a new line of wellness beverages, which might sound strange for a restaurant wine bar, but we thought it was time for balance. And so we started carrying some cold pressed juices by Source Juicery, and so created our own alkaline waters and bone broth. So we're trying even like that wellness side of the world, but it's really been tough. And I think the other thing is that I have really been so lucky to have an incredibly supportive family and incredibly supportive friends and fans of Robust who I have gone back to over and over again over this pandemic, asking and begging them to help me. And they have done it. And they've done it over and over and over again. But I think at some point there's support fatigue. And I don't know how much more I can ask these people to help me.
What about the county? It seems to me I read in the paper a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks, that Rodney Krim, one of the development officials in St. Louis County, was going to offer up to $5,000 for restaurants which were forced to limit or eliminate their businesses during this pandemic. And this was after the prohibition of indoor dining, right? And I'm also wondering if there's been any effort for your property taxes to be reduced or forgiven, if applicable. Sometimes restaurants have leases that say they have to pay the property taxes or sales taxes, which would otherwise go to the state or the county. I'm just thinking, if your business is being shut down by the government, maybe the government should take less from you in 2020.
That would be fantastic, but there's no talk of any of that. I haven't heard any of that. We're still paying our taxes monthly. There's no break anywhere. We haven't had to ask for any relief on our lease at all. We've been fortunate there, but no, every penny counts now. And we're going through so many more disposable items, and the costs are going up, which I'm always like, it's a pandemic and you're raising your prices. But collectively, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone, regardless of whether they're making the packaging, staffing issues are rampant.
And Colleen, you might know this. When you were talking about the relief, that $5,000 of relief from the county, isn't that only for people that didn't get the county cares money in the first place?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I'm not sure.
Because I feel like we kind of looked into that, and because we had gotten the county cares relief prior to that, we could not apply for this time around.
About that one. I wouldn't have the answer to that. But I know in your city, they're offering up, funding there, but it's very limited. But we were able to get, a little bit of money from them. And at this stage of the game, I was telling my team, I'm asking for every penny I can get, whether it's, a few $100s or a few $1,000s, because that is someone's rent or food for their table, for their family, and I'm giving everyone everything I can to ensure that they can stay in their homes and feed their families and buy gifts for Christmas. It's just really heart-wrenching.
Alvin?
There, as I go places in my mind, I think to myself, there are some things that I hope will continue. Lessons learned. Now, one, obviously your folks can't work from home, but once this is all over, there'll be people that will never go back to the office they worked in because they're going to work from home. It's been discovered that it actually works. Are there some things that you all have learned to say, like, lesson learned here, that we're going to, keep doing this, or maybe we have to order less of that, or just any instance where like something here will continue 6 months from now, a year from now?
Definitely for us, delivery, home delivery, and delivery without the third party delivery service. I mean, we have put together what we call our own team of Kirby's that if you call or you order online, they're people employed by us. They're actually part of our team. So the third party delivery system is not taking the money away from anybody here. So that's one thing for sure.
Colleen?
There's a lot of things we've taken away. It's really hard to plan for the future in terms of we don't know what lies ahead. We can't plan for next week, much less next month. So keeping our inventory incredibly tight, which you do in food service anyway, because the margins are so incredibly low. But, keeping it even tighter than we were before. So there's times when, we're running to, one of the big box places to grab something quickly because we know we're not going to go through those larger amounts that we're getting from some of our vendors. So those are some of the things that we've done incredibly well. But as prices increase, it's still our cost of goods are going up, So trying to do that, and just everybody has jumped on board to support whatever we need, as Arlene said, having people taking deliveries, that's been incredibly helpful. But we still rely on some of the third-party delivery services because it generates a lot of income.
Right.
Yeah, kind of two-part question, I guess, of two areas of potential support. One is, I didn't hear anybody mention the state. Is the state doing anything at all, either in terms of getting you support or giving you relief from anything that you owe them? First, and the second half is, what can a community do to help you? In other words, I know we've had many experts on my radio show. We've talked about the importance of people going out of their way to support their restaurants by ordering curbside. You mentioned COVID fatigue. Is that declining at all? Or that certainly seems to be something I would think people could continue to do to support you. Have you seen that tail off at all? So sort of two parts. But
so the support has continued, but I do see a little bit of fatigue. I definitely think that. And I myself don't know how much more I can go out and basically beg all people that I love and know to keep supporting us. I think also there's less money out there because definitely COVID has been tough on the economy, and people don't have a lot of disposable income right now. So, I mean, that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything coming from the state at all. In University City, one of the programs that one of the other restaurants put together, which is outstanding, is donations. It's Donate a Meal for Frontline Workers. So you can go online to a variety of websites of I think there's 20 restaurants in University City that support this. So you can go to their website and you can buy meals for the frontline workers. And that keeps the restaurant people working, and it provides meals for the frontline workers. So twice a week, there's deliveries going to make a difference. So it makes a difference for us, and it makes a difference for the people that are trying to keep us safe.
And I think that's great. They actually do that here in Webster as well. But another great thing that I've seen a lot lately is neighborhood dine-ins. So somebody in a certain neighborhood, whether it be in Kirkwood or Webster or like by streets or by blocks, Central West End, University City, we've had numbers of families getting together and saying, we're gonna order from Robust tonight, and everybody get your orders in, and then we do a mass delivery. And I think it has been amazing. That has been so kind and so generous, and we've done a few of those right now, and it's just really, really helpful.
Who's next, Bill?
Yeah, I am. There was just a story in the Post-Dispatch about a public relations woman contacting the owner of a restaurant who had defiantly stayed open and suggested that maybe she could get him a meeting with Sam Page. And I wonder if you saw that, what you thought about it, and if you think that Sam Page has been good about hearing your concerns.
I emailed Sam Page after the shutdown, explaining that, we're a small breakfast and lunch place. We have coffee, breakfast, lunch, and suites. We're open from 7 to 2. I explained our whole model, and I have not heard back from him. So I haven't heard anything at all. I think what happened in LA with Angela Marsden and her complaints there, I think that was very beneficial with the Supreme Court coming back saying that there's no way to trace this back to restaurants. So I'm hoping that that has some impact on all of us.
Okay.
And I want to go back to, I can't pinpoint it on any single person. I think it really is the problem that the region needs to come together, and we need a comprehensive plan.
Agreed.
Wendy?
And I think that whether it's on the football field or, you know, in the classrooms, I think you've really hit on it. You've both really made such a terrific point of that lack of consistency, and we're putting people behind the 8 ball, and we're telling those who follow the rules, oh, you're doing it for the benefit of mankind, but what about the place to, it just doesn't make any sense. And I know that I can't imagine financially having this kind of obstacle to try to make it over every single day. Personally, how are you both getting through this? I mean, professionally, obviously, you've just outlined it and how it's taken a toll on you professionally, but personally, how are you doing this? Colleen, I'll start with you.
Well, if anyone's heard me screaming in my forest, and they probably weren't ear piercing, but it's hard. It's an incredible amount of stress. Food service industry is an exhilarating business. You have to have a passion for it. It's not something that, is for the faint of heart. There are so many moving elements at all times, and you've got to stay on top of everything. But then when you can't control it after a while, and so my mantra now is, I can only control what I can control. But my concerns are, it's heart-wrenching when you see restaurants that have gone down, because you know what goes into that. Everything you have goes into it, all of your passion and your heart and your soul. And all of the people that are with us, is what I'm stressing out about right now, is how can I make their holidays? How can I keep the people coming back? If you keep calling and is your dining room open, after a while, you're just going to keep going into the city to eat there because you can. One of the things that I think food service industry is the largest private sector of employers in the country. And everybody loves to go out to eat. That's kind of our thing. What do you want to do tonight? Oh, let's go out to eat. Well, if you can't go out to eat, and at the end of this, in the middle of the COVID thing, you want to go somewhere and you just want to get away because we've all been cooped up. And so we're just at a loss. We can't. We can't go anywhere. So I constantly, how can I keep my clients coming back? How can we keep everybody engaged? We have so many things going on, but it's not working.
So I have to say it's been really hard, and my husband and I do this together. I also have like 3 other jobs besides this, and we have 2 kids at home that I have to be really, really strong for. And I think that's the hardest part, that they see us and I don't want them to worry. I don't want them to worry about that. We have to keep them, in school, fed, roof over their heads. That makes me happy. They're great kids. And this is what we do it for. We do it to take care of our family, to make people happy. And it's tough. We've been doing this for 13 years, and it's been amazing and great. We love help. We love making people happy. We love sharing what we have, but this is the hardest ever.
Well, it's so well spoken. And I hope all of our viewers go to all the restaurants out there, including Colleen's and, of course, Robust. But let me ask you, are we assuming that closing the indoor dining one size fits all was really the best policy? Because I was thinking, isn't it possible that there are some large multi-square feet venues that could be limited to 20% capacity and only 4 tops with immediate family members, maybe windows open with space heaters or ceiling fans, something so that there's some flexibility, and every restaurant isn't treated as if it's a basement with no windows.
I concur with that wholeheartedly. I don't think you can throw a blanket over everything and assume it works, because we're all different. Everything is different in terms of, as you said, the larger venues are going to hold more people. Ours holds 40 people, so we have everything social distance. So I think they need to reevaluate, how they're doing it, because I don't think it's fair just closing everybody down.
Oh, completely. It isn't fair. And again, I'll just go back to, we all have to be on the same playing field. There's no other way.
Alvin?
Well, the county did something, whether we like it or not. The federal government did nothing. Let's go back to the spring. Did anyone, restaurateurs and everybody said, like, this is not going to work if there's not a national policy, regardless. So if the new president comes in on January 20th and he locks us down or makes the mask mandatory, whatever, would you support that?
I think if there was also a relief package, I think that's where it all boils down to. I mean, we have to have some relief in sight, something to know that we're going to be okay, because we're trying our hardest. It's not like we're just sitting here, not doing our thing. We have to have a relief package. And if we have to get shut down for a little while and then COVID disappears, great, because isn't that what we're all trying to get? But we have to have relief, because we cannot sustain this way of life and this at all.
If he comes in to shut everything down, I think it would have to be across the country. I don't think it should be limited to just food service.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, this is where we're going, and this is the amount of time we're going to do it.
Yes, I would have a problem with that, quite honestly, just because I don't think that I prefer to go out and work for what I have. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to rely upon the government to take care of me. But the government needs to be there when we all are in need. So I agree with Arlene in terms of there would have to be some relief. But at the same time, if everyone is doing the right thing, social distancing, wearing the mask, washing their hands, doing all of that, that we can keep open and keep working and keep everybody working. That's what I would like to see.
Raymond.
This kind of follow up on something Alvin talked about, hopeful on the assumption everybody gets through this somehow, which I know is a very difficult thing. In the future, do you think online ordering, and you mentioned delivery, but the whole, what you've learned and what you've, sort of built out of necessity on the digital platform, will that be a permanent thing that will change in some ways your model perhaps going forward?
I have been a big proponent of ordering online for a while, and I had wanted Robust to do that actually a few years ago and kind of build that more up. It's funny, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and when people used to have to call us, like in the spring, because our online system was not as good as it is today, but they would call to order and we would deliver, or they could pick up curbside. And she said, Arlene, nobody wants to talk to anybody. She goes, we don't want to talk to anybody. We just want to order, and we want it to come to our house. And I thought, it's true. A lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to call up. They don't want to give you their credit card information over the phone. They just want to order it, and they want it to come to your house. And frankly, I like that a little bit too.
I think that it's not going away. I know that, because there's a lot of people that they don't want to go out. They want you to bring the food. And yet at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, that's our thing, is to go out and spend time with people that we enjoy and sitting across the table and enjoying a good meal and having laughs, so I think it's the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a minute to go. Bill, do you have a quick question?
Sure. Yeah. Without help, when is the end? I mean, we're waiting for the vaccine that, hey, things might be normal by summer. If you don't get help, when do you think restaurants start falling en masse?
They already are.
Yeah.
They already are. And we've got to have help. That's really all there is to it. or we need to be all on the same plan. We all need to be open. It's happening now. And this is supposed to be the busiest time of the year for all of us. And it's the worst. I mean, it is the worst for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Colleen?
it's already falling, though. I think a lot of the restaurants, like I said before, it's heart-wrenching when you see restaurants that go down because you know what these people have put into it to get open and the time that they've spent. And it's not a job that you go to 8 to 5. You go home and you worry and you plan and what are we going to do? So I'm
Colleen,
hoping that everybody makes it.
thank you so much, Colleen Thompson and Arlene Browne, for joining us on Donnybrook Next Up. We want everyone to visit your eateries real soon and get that curbside carryout. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of the Nine Network.